Welcome everyone, I am the Depressed Eeyore, and this is Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 10. New season of Apex has started, and as you can probably see, as promised, I have a completely different box that I'm still trying to get used to. This is more or less to get ready for better prepare for the meta. We'll just say that. I've been complaining about, running against all assassins or all AoE and not really having an answer for it. And that's kind of how the meta's been shifting on the Chinese server as well. It's just there are so many characters that do really good AoE and or assassinations or just one-shot tanks that tanks become not that useful. There's a few that are still worth to keep around. I mean, pretty much the staples. Christian and Hilda are still very good. It's just the matter that, okay, well, they have no way of stopping an assassin. Hilda at least can prevent the crit from happening, and in the case of AoE, both of them have ways of at least reducing the damage with the aura. But that's about it. The guard part is completely worthless in most cases. And so a lot of times you see people just not bring a tank. Or they'll usually have maybe a tank or two in their box, but they won't pick it until they have nothing else to pick, or they feel like it's the match is shifting in that direction, like into single target. So with that, I was like, okay, well, I still have technically two tanks. I have Hilda, but instead I also have Estelle, which got banned first. Estelle has a generic buff for everybody that does about 16% or something like that. I don't remember exactly what the buff value is, but also gives additional mobility. The only bad part about Estelle is her guard is a little bit complicated, and she has no way of actually guarding its magic. But like I mentioned, I'm kind of shifting away from relying on guarding and seeing how AoE plays out. I mean, I've been doing assassination and single target for so long, I wanted to go ahead and change things up anyway, even if it's something that's generally seen as common. Anyway, obviously there's some new faces, some are just new characters, and some are just characters that are usually not seen at all. In general, I grabbed as many AoEs as possible since, for those who don't know, I play only female characters. So good news is there are plenty of casters that have AoEs that are female. So I grabbed all of them, or not all of them, I grabbed as many as I could that I could fit in. I do have some faction buffers. Majority of this is a mixture of maybe Dark Princess and Reincarnation. But for the most part, I don't even really rely on faction buffs anymore, simply because more than likely the deployed heroes I'm going to get is going to be a mix of different factions, and I'm probably only going to have maybe one faction buffer at best. And that faction buff usually takes up a very crucial skill slot. So instead, I tend to rely more on mass attack, which of course Varna, Sissy White, Iron Chancellor, Lucretia, all have access to. And then of course I have Strengthen available on Tensei Jessica. So I have ways of getting people buffed if necessary. There's also the generic buff from Estelle herself. The other thing is I took characters that can actually amplify AoE. So that'll be the new character Michelle, Varna, technically Maya if you hit things with AoE. Speaking of, I did bring out Maya just kind of really as a change of pace to see if I ever find an opportunity to actually use her. She definitely has some very unique things where she can purge debuffs nearby, as well as purge buffs and replace them with debuffs, and she also has a way of sweeping up terrain effects. So she kind of has some unique things. She also can apply a debuff that just increases the damage taken, which works well with everyone else as well. For the most part, as mentioned, I have the two tanks, though they're not really going to be used that much. I have technically three healers. I have Lycoris, Rosenciel, and Sissy White. It was kind of hard to... I originally also had Liana, but I decided to drop her just to get more AoE, essentially. But for the most part, I just have them there just in case. Mainly, Rosenciel is my main pick if I do take any sort of healer, if I can. Simply because she can do a lot of passive healing, as well as be able to make it so we're essentially immune to debuffs. The only person that hasn't acted again, of course, is Sissy White. Sissy White also can bring a tank if necessary with her summons. And then Lycoris is kind of a flex where I can either use her for general AoE, healing, or both, depending on the situation. The only catch is her exclusive helmet really only activates if she has a faction buff, so she either has to bring her own faction buff, or I just have to choose not to worry about it. Besides that, yeah, like I said, there's a bunch of unfamiliar faces. Out of all of them, Iron Chancellor, Gustav, and Michelle are all 5 stars. Michelle and Gustav will I believe, have 15 days as of recording this before they will be 6 stars, and I got about like 40 days or something like that for Iron Chancellor. But besides that, everyone else here is 6 stars. Anyway, the other thing about the AoEs is I also want to not only have AoE debuff, but I also want AoE dispel. Just in case I'm in situations where I can't apply debuffs, either because a Liana is there or for some reason I did not ban Rose and Seal, I can have another option of just purging away their buffs that weaken them. Anyway, sorry for taking so long. I just wanted to go over things. I'll go over more about these characters as I bring them out in the field. Alright, so with all that, as for our opponent, very much a rush box. That, like I said, that's what I've been dealing with, so I've been just kind of embracing the meta at this point. Really, yeah, they don't have any tanks. They have 0 tanks. Well, technically you can use Autocrado as a tank if you want to, a physical tank. And but despite this being somewhat meta, there is Suzette here. There are some characters that we haven't seen as much recently. So definitely a little bit of a mixed bag here, but mostly it's AoE, a little bit of AoE, and as well as rush single target. So I got rid of Wethem because my opponent didn't actually have a Rose and CL. Usually I'll ban Rose and CL first if I can. I literally had no idea what I was going to open with this box, so I grabbed Iron Chancellor. She has access to mass attack, and she can enable improved mobility for most of this team. The bad part about having all these casters is most of them only have 3 movement, but that actually works well with Iron Chancellor, who can actually buff up people to 5 movement, which I actually really like that type of buff, because it enables low mobility characters while not sending the already high mobile characters into overpowered realms. It will still do that with some characters that get a passive mobility buff, but overall it's definitely, I think, a preferred change over, you know, a breeze being applied to someone that already has 5 or 6 mobility. My opponent went with Rosalia. I went ahead and grabbed Rose and Seal since they didn't ban her. They start banning my long range and teleport. They take Lucretia. At this point I got rid of their healers. And I went ahead and take Michelle. They banned some of my princess at AoE. And they take one of their assassins. I believe that's Epsilon. Went ahead and banned some more of their teleport and AoE. Grabbed Gustav. Also, Gustav does have a single target heal. They went and banned my Varna and my Reen or Renee. They take Autocrado. I wasn't too worried about Autocrado because I have Rose and Seal to actually negate the debuffs, and then I take Lycoris as my flex AoE, and they take Suzette. So, Suzette, I was like, what can Suzette do? It's just Weevil. But she is a bit more dangerous now. Surprisingly dangerous. I mean, her exclusive weapon did come out this same week, and it does make a difference. So their Suzette has full fire, which is their, I think this is their 3 cost. Rapid reloading is a common trait, and then they have aerial bombardment, which is choose a friendly unit and launch them to the target location, which will do AoE in a 3 block area. So Suzette is actually a teleport, which is something I didn't even consider. Epsilon's standard kit for the most part. Rosalia standard kit with Griffin Knights. Autocrado pretty standard kit with giant zombies. And Lucretia is got mass attack to buff everyone else. As for us, Lycoris brought a faction buff, and other than that, her 3C and transformation. Michelle the standard kit for Michelle is usually to take Magic Armor Substitute, their 3C, and then one of the 2 line AoEs. I take Scorching Lance, which is I think it's a little bit weak. I don't remember. It's either weaker than the other one, or it can't. The detriment is it can't do the push. One of them does a push and damage. The other one does a damage, but can refresh its cooldown immediately if it hits 3 targets. I'm using State Guard for her troops. Ironblood Commander, I'm bringing Sandsea Mercenaries, which are completely capped out as far as soldier training is concerned. Brought in the 1 cost would move again, Mass Attack, and then the 3C. And then Rosen Seal, I went ahead and just brought all healing, AoE, and all that good stuff. And then Gustav brought 3C, her single target heal cooldown thing, and then her single target unique attack. Alright, so generally the idea for characters like Ironblood Commander is to just move her in position so she can enable 3 characters to get additional mobility as well as soldier damage. And she can do that while also applying Mass Attack to everybody, giving everyone a pretty decent buff. So essentially I get set up in the back row as far as I can and then move in. That's the general gist of it. Obviously, as always, we need to count steps here. This Rosalia has 6 movement? Is that boots? Can she actually equip boots? I don't know how I feel about that. She's able to equip boots? That I never knew that. Usually they make it so mounted holy characters can't equip boots. You know, like obviously not putting it on TRS or whatever, but I guess she's able to do it? Because that's the only way she can have 6 movement. Anyway, she can move here, then go Chivalry to here, and then if she happened to be within 2 rings of enemies, she can then move another several spaces with the sword throw. So right now we're out of range. We can essentially move 1 step closer. I think that's what it is. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we can move 1 step closer without provoking anything. Or at least that's what I think right now. So, buffs are going in. Go ahead and do resets. This is mostly just so I can get her on cooldown. When she's on cooldown, she gets an increased 2 range on all of her spells. Or actually, just plus 2 range in general. Alright. Faction buffing, just because I can. The other thing to note is Gustav... She does get a stackable self buff every action that goes up to 2, and so it gives her so within the first 2 turns she'll eventually get up to 16 intelligence and M defense percentage. Once she gets to 6 stars, I believe this becomes 10% per turn, so it goes up to 20. All right, well, so again I'm just getting set up. So set up there, and here it is. This is what I did not expect. Aerial Bombardment teleports her right there. So now she's definitely in range. So I do Mass Attack, Iron Blood Formation, do Heavy Strike Formation, so all these characters got plus 2 mobility, going up to 5. And to no one's surprise, here comes the Rosalia. Goes after my Gustav. Yep, just takes me out. So I went ahead and moved in with her. Do my 3C to ensure she dies. She's technically not cavalry, so even though I have infantry troops, it was more than enough damage. In hindsight, I should have moved here. Yeah, I should have moved here instead, because obviously you could probably safely assume this person has a range staff. Didn't really matter. Shift position will make it so she can get close enough anyway. Yeah, goes after my Michelle instead. Pretty sure a Freeze Strike would have killed. So this is just a bit much. So at this point, I've already lost 2 of my DPS, and they lost only 1 of theirs. So at this point, I made a mistake. I forgot to transform. So I gave up at this point because I completely messed up. I should have. I was intending on transforming and then doing Dark Despair. It wouldn't have made a difference. At this point, my only really viable attacker is Iron Blood, and I wouldn't be able to take out the Lucretia before everyone else comes in and murders me. So at this point, I gave up. Yeah, I ran away. I was scared. Anyway, let's check the next match. So I was partially tempted to just give up on all 5 matches and just let myself be really as low rank as possible. But I decided to go ahead and just use this as a learning moment. So obviously I lost the first match. My opponent did not have Risen Seal, no Wet Ham, so went straight and got rid of their Sherry. My opponent has quite a variety. Brenda. Anyone remember Brenda existing? She's actually cavalry. I always assume she's spears, but this one was cav. Their Yulia is infantry. They even have a Renee or a Reen. Lestel, of all things, Sakura. Yeah, a lot of characters you don't really see very often. Probably the biggest threats is the Luna, because the Luna can give additional mobility as well as give that magic damage reduction aura, which can be very dangerous. Overall, though, it's not too bad. They definitely have some AoE, and they have some people that can cover distance and teleport. Biggest threat was Sherry, which is why I got rid of her. So they get rid of my Risen Seal, so I wasn't surprised about that. They take Luna as their opener. So yeah, at this point I could have banned their tanks, but since I'm going AoE, they can have all the tanks they want. So I got rid of their Act Again and their Teleport, and I take Lucretia as my opener. She has access to Mass Attack. She can passively heal. I figured she was a stronger choice as an opening compared to Iron Chancellor. They went ahead and banned some of my AoE and Teleport. They take TRS. So TRS can provide +1 mobility if allowed. I went and got rid of Yulia and Lycoris. Did not want to deal with any additional passive healing, terrain, or I also did not want to deal with any self-resing. They let me have Iron Chancellor at this point, so I went ahead and took her. They banned my tanks, so I was completely okay with that. They take Brenda, of all things. So got rid of Sakura and Bozel, since they do quite a bit of debuffs. Went ahead and took Michelle. They banned some more of my magic AoE. They take the SP Lana. Went ahead and got rid of any remaining AoEs. I was like, here, have a tank. Took Varna. And at this point, they left me with a healer and Gustav. So just in case, I went ahead and brought Sissy White. I can make her summon spear troops to go ahead and guard against physical if needed. And here we go. So Game of Risk did trigger, so I ended up getting 4 coins right off the bat. So my opponent is a little all over the place, admittedly. I think my opponent was actually kind of lower level than me. Just kind of comparing troops and stuff here. Yeah, so Brenda with Dragoons, of all things. Has Move Again, 3C, and Frontal Assault. No Strike, which is something I was expecting. Brenda does have access to Strike, which gives additional 3 movement and a self-attack buff. So I don't know why they didn't bring that. TRS did have 3C, so she does have access to the additional mobility. Luna brought Wind Pressure as the 1 cost, so it's a little extra damage, I guess. The Lana is mixed, so it seems to be more focused on single target because brought Dark Alchemist. The Black Hole is not going to have the additional range or the additional span because she didn't bring melee troops. But she does have additional range with her elemental destruction. Freya has 3C, as well as Roselash, and that's about it. As for us, I was concerned about a little bit about AoE from Lana. She could potentially get refreshes from Elemental Echo, so I went ahead and stuck with Mass Heal just to have that available to us. I actually have both Varna and Ironblood both has Mass Attack, mainly because I wasn't sure how I was going to set up. Also, if I lose one of them, I have a backup. Lucretia, I went ahead and dropped her Reaper and brought Black Hole, which essentially is 5 range, so it definitely has a lot of coverage. And Michelle's the same as always. Also, Varna does have her 3C. Alright, let's do this. Alright, so buffs majority of this. Give me one moment. Sorry about that, I had to clear my throat. Anyway, so really the biggest threat right now is Luna. She can move an additional, is it 3? Yep, 3 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, puts her right there. And then she can provide additional 2 mobility for everyone else. So Lana has 4 movement. I'm assuming these are SR boots and not Apex boots. I mean, that's the only boots that you can really put on a caster's, and that doesn't provide any intelligence, which is a bit unfortunate. Yeah, there's not really any int boots for people, but yeah, 4 distance, I didn't even consider that. Even with the additional mobility from Lana, she can't reach. She can get to there, and then 1, 2, 3, and maybe 4 there. Brenda could get to here, and that's it, because she didn't bring Strike. If she had brought Strike, she could pretty much cover the entire board here. Now, TRS does have access to the 3C, so this is actually additional movement. So she can actually go 1, 2, 3. Well, she could technically go to here and then go 1, 2, 3, and actually kill my Arcane Golem right off the bat. It would pretty much leave her vulnerable to attack, but she's actually in range. I didn't even consider that. Alright, so for right now, I went ahead and just moved in, did long-term investment. I didn't feel like I was going to need any healing in this round. And went ahead and brought out a Lancer. So this will give me coverage that I needed. Alright, so Lana moved up, so I'm good there. Did Mass Attack there. And then do Heavy Strike formation. So now everyone has all that additional mobility. So with this, Lucretia can get all the way to here. And she can then, her AoE is actually 5 range. So she can actually AoE here and hit everybody. And then, well, Varna can move 2 additional steps and go to here, and then AoE anyone she wants as well. And she does have additional span, because she does have her exclusive helmet. And then Michelle could actually go to here, put out her her doppelganger here, and then back away. She doesn't have a ton of coverage right now, but these guys are going to be moving up, so yep, like that. So Brenda being Cav is going to be very painful. so no 3C, she needs to heal. She does have Goddess Tier. At this point I went ahead and moved in. Put that there. And then this substitute can act as the additional position to AoE from. And boom, hits everybody. And hitting 3 targets will reduce cooldown, and I think it also makes it so it dispels. And at this point, my opponent gave up. So, yeah, needless to say, she was kind of stuck. Her heal was already used. I still had Varna coming in. Varna was going to kill multiple targets at that point. And at that point, there was really nothing going on. So yeah, quick and simple. Alright, let's do one more for this video, and then we'll do the rest of the matches next time. Alright, so NPC. So the biggest danger for an AoE box is not just Resonate CL, but actually, I think this is what, Emma, I think is her name? She not only can reflect status effects, but she can also do a lot of passive healing, kind of like Juggler, if the staff gets hit. So at this point, I should have been considering doing single targeted to just overwhelm my opponent. So they actually banned Renee first. I don't know why. And they actually open with Emma. I hope her name's Emma because I don't remember. Ban Sherry got rid of Elwyn. Anyone that has long legs is actually pretty dangerous since I don't have tanks. Went and grabbed Rosen Seal. I did lose Iron Chancellor and Varna, so my options for strength for mass attack has actually dropped drastically at this point. They took Old Landius, which we haven't seen in a while. There's Old Landius there. We got Lucretia. I got rid of Lucretia and Wedham, which is nice. I definitely did not want to deal with either of them. I grabbed my Lucretia. They banned more of my healers and tanks. At this point, my only healer is Lycoris. They grab Yulia, which is bad. I go ahead and ban the rest of their assassins. So yeah, the biggest mistake was taking Shafaniel. I should not have taken Shafaniel. I should have taken anyone else but Shafaniel. Yeah, I should have probably taken... I would say probably either Michelle or Gustav. Michelle, I can definitely kind of control her AoE pretty well to make it so I don't accidentally hit the spikes. Or I could switch her to single target. That would be an option. Gustav has access to some decent single target as well. But yeah, Shafaniel was not a good choice. I was probably thinking maybe I could dispel things, but honestly, the number of buffs this particular group has is just quite a bit. I went and got rid of the rest of the healers, giving them a second tank. And I take Sensei Jessica at this point. And I ban my physical attackers, leaving me with these two characters. Yeah, I think Gustav was probably still a better pick than Maya for this particular match. But overall, I should have taken anyone else besides Shafaniel. Because Shafaniel, I mean, if I was going to take Shafaniel, I should have not brought her a faction buff. That's the situation. Because not taking her faction buff made it so I couldn't really... I had dead rounds that I couldn't do anything about. So yeah, I brought her a faction buff because I was like, oh, I have some princess faction. We can just bring a faction buff. No, I should have brought another AoE. And then just relied on... Oh, I didn't even bring mass attack because I... Oh, I see. So yeah, I did faction buff instead of mass attack for whatever reason. In hindsight, that was probably not the best decision. Alright, besides that, I did start swapping in Fairy Spirit Prophets. Sorceresses at max HP, I believe, out-damage Spirit Prophets, but Spirit Prophets get their benefits even when they're not at 100% HP, so they're overall a more generally useful troop. As for our opponent, Elma, that's her name, not Emma. So Elma is, yeah, we haven't really seen her too much. The biggest issue is she gets a little staff thing that she can place, and if that staff, the staff thing will reduce range damage. It has a range damage reduction aura, a plus healing aura, and if it ever is hit, it will heal everyone else. I think it's nearby. I don't think it's like Jugglers where it's global. It also could take actions on its own, which are just some like weak heals and some teleports, but it's essentially another heal. Elma herself has the ability to make it so not only are certain people immune to debuffs, it will actually reflect those debuffs back at us. That in itself is not too bad because obviously we have Rosen Seal to soak it up for us. But the biggest issue is she can kind of negate what I'm trying to do, and that's bad. Anyway, really the biggest threat is just the Yulia, and unfortunately I didn't really come up with a good answer for dealing with her. Alright, so I move in with Miracle. Oh yeah, Landius tank. We haven't seen those in a while too. So I went super aggressive here. I went and teleported in with Gustav. And I'm about to do her AoE. So her AoE, the way it works Right now she doesn't have the extra range because nothing's on cooldown. Okay, so essentially it'll do 2 random debuffs. It'll also make it so increase cooldown timers of all stats by 1, which could be pretty rough. And then she actually gets an aura that makes it so she takes less damage and renders all enemies unable to trigger clock. Like, it's not even a range, just everyone can't activate clock. So I move in, I do my AoE. I managed to debuff a bit. But the problem is Elma here does have Forest Priest, which means this heal is going to dispel a lot. And it kind of undid all the work. That brings out that. So, do Goddess Glow, get everyone buffed up. Yeah, and unfortunately it purged off the mobility down. Did I freeze? There it is. So even with the damage reduction, I thought the damage reduction was actually higher. I should have actually read the skill, but I didn't. And so I just get wrecked. So I kind of just threw away Gustav. I really should not have charged in like that. I should have waited. I mean, the end result, I was kind of screwed either way. So I went ahead and just moved in and started throwing debuffs as best as I could. I had to get some reflects on me. Yeah, you hit the candle, it heals everybody. My silence does dispel some buffs. Something else to note, they increase all cooldowns by 1 when an action ends. So she did her Glory of Langrisser. She did get the kill, which reduced the cooldown. But then her cooldown went back up by 1, as well as her Godly Menace, which she didn't even use, goes up by 1. So it can actually be really debilitating to get hit by that ability. Problem was I just did not have a follow-up that worked. So get pushed back. It procced, so the since Gustav is dead, clock procs still happen. So the clock actually happened there. It would have actually negated it if she was still alive. Yeah, and Elma can teleport anyone next to her. It's just, yeah. I really did not plan this well. Yeah. And unfortunately she reflects, well, she does the fixed damage, which pretty much negates the sorcerer's benefit. And with 2 tanks, I have to kind of punch through all of them before I can even get to Yulia. That or find a way to get by the guard. Now, something I didn't notice is I did dispel Landius's guard. He still has his passive guard, but his 2 range guard has actually been dispelled. I didn't actually notice it. And yeah, this is what ended me, is the breeze proc. If the breeze proc hadn't happened, I probably would have been able to kill Yulia. Assuming I would have, if I had noticed the whole tank thing. So yeah, I did my 3C. I did hit 3 targets, which reduced the cooldown, but since I didn't kill anything, pretty much Sophianiel can't do anything. All of her stuff's on cooldown now. So went ahead and moved in. Yeah, so at this point I did not notice Yulia's not guarded right now. If I had, I could have went after her instead. I don't think it would have killed. It obviously would not have killed because it's Yulia and she has self-resing. But at least I could have maybe weakened her. Maybe, I don't know. Like I said, the breeze proc was what screwed me, which is a 30% proc, of course. That happens 100% of the time. And then this divine threat just kind of sealed me even further. So swap places to get outside the mobility reduction aura. And I was like, oh, I'll just go after Landius now. And then I was like, oh, I'm attacking Yulia and not Landius because Landius's guard is down. So yeah, Light Mirror. Does the set there, which actually was kind of helpful. Yeah, the big issue here is the passive healing that Yulia's getting from her her skill. So yeah, at this point, I'm not. My only hope is to kill Yulia. If I don't kill her, this match is over. And here's the situation: I have Impure Shockwave. Currently, Yulia is shielded, and she has all of her buffs. She's not at full health, but she is going to get healed by Godly Menace's aura. Lucretia has no buffs, and she's going to lose the benefit from Sorcerer's Resist because of the fixed damage. So, unfortunately, math is... And her M defense is actually reasonably decent, and she has reduction from the light flame. So, yeah. So all that stuff gets reflected. I take damage. And Pure Shockwave. Yeah, almost a kill, but not enough. So at this point, yeah, it's over. I can't kill her. I can't kill her. And I can't move. Yeah, I can't move my my minion, so I can't even attack again, which wouldn't matter because it would just proc the heal again. So yeah, definitely a bit of a mess. I'm gonna go ahead and call it here. We got 2 more matches to go through. So until then, I am the Depressed Hero. This was Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 10. I'll see you guys later.